The town of Walkerville would like to acknowledge the Kaurna people as the traditional custodians of the land that we're meeting on today and respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We recognise the many generations of stewardship the Kaurna people have provided to this land and respect that their cultural heritage and beliefs are as important today as they were for their ancestors. Right, we have apologies from Councillor Joshi and Councillor Nenke, and we have leave of absence from Councillor Wilkins and Councillor Ashby. Is there any more leave of absence that anyone wishes to advise tonight? If not, I'll move on to declarations of interest. Oh, before I do that, I welcome people in the gallery. This is the first time we've seen anyone since before COVID. So welcome. And welcome to anyone who's watching online. Declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest regarding the agenda item? I would imagine there would be. No. Right, we move straight on to the reports requiring a decision of council, which is why we're meeting tonight, which is Scotty's Corner Code Amendment. Do you wish to speak at all, or I just ask for questions?
I think the report speaks for itself, Your Worship.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the acting CEO who has prepared this report?
Probably one around the issue of the traffic flow, traffic management. I understand this is an independent development application. Just out of process, why is traffic management not considered part of the development application? Because a site like this is probably located in what I consider probably the worst location in terms of traffic ingress and egress. The site is going to be highly developed, yet access into and out of that property is going to be heavily impacting the local residents, and by process of osmosis everyone's going to flow through what the easiest path is, and you can see that side streets such as Tennyson, Victoria, Dunn, etc. will be used by this development as a means to access. So I'd just like to understand why the process has decided to silo that issue and dealt with the planning level.
Through Your Worship, Councillor Fellon, so the traffic on this particular matter, obviously, as you know from the previous process and the attachments in this particular one, we did get a traffic engineer to do an overall assessment to back our submission. Obviously, that's been counted by the entity itself, but the Minister will consider traffic in an overall scope. Any specific traffic impacts will be thoroughly scrutinised as part of a planning and development application. So while we can pass comment and there will be some broad assessment done now, the more detailed aspects of it come in later.
And I'm pleased that we've actually put a comment in the application
In the letter,
to state
yes.
that is an area of concern, and it is a significant area of concern.
Absolutely.
Councillor Coleman?
Those are the two sites alongside the Scotty's project. Have they actually been purchased, or are they still in the air?
Your Worship, I believe they have been purchased and by the entity.
And the other two we were discussing, they're maybes
I'll just pull off a map.
in Nottage Terrace, the other two closer to the Victoria.
Councillor Coleman.
I think you'll find that those two are owned by the entity
These two.
that owns Scotty's Corner, same as where you see the house that's not
3 and 5.
Yeah, and then if you go around the left of Scotty's, see how that photo's got the old shed there. Well, they finally bought that land and knocked the shed down. So that's a vacant block. So yes, they've bought either side of Scotty's.
And then on to the right, you go, what, 3 and
5, I believe that is correct. That is correct.
they've been purchased?
I believe so.
Yes, they're rented at the moment.
Okay.
I have no questions.
Yes, Councillor Williams.
Well, question, more comment as much as anything, but I might start with page 8, I think it is, the letter to Ms Nagerville. just in the second paragraph, we've got the wrong date.
Yes,
It's been done.
thank you, Councillor Williams.
It's all
I
been
will.
fixed.
Just prior to the meeting, I circulated a revised
Oh, did you?
draft to elected members, which corrected that and also included in paragraph 4, commented or highlighted our council's concerns about the traffic in and around the adjacent streets.
No problems. I haven't seen that email. I've been at my son's cricket, but cricket training. But like, a lot of my concerns I brought up the other night, and really I think the recommendation is probably the only way that we can go. And in reality, council needs to be seen to be supporting its residents as well, because some of the concerns that I brought up at the last meeting was around the spot rezoning, which I can understand because there's a lot of sites along there that may or may not be redeveloped at various times. But one of my concerns was more properties backing on to that corridor being purchased over a time, and I've seen a couple there that have been purchased that then do run the risk of significant change to a heritage area.
That domino effect.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a real concern that I have, which I think will then once again exacerbate the traffic through the area. But I also can't help but think, depending on the development and how it ends up, I can remember there being some issues, and this is why we need the traffic studies are so important. I can remember the residents around the issue when the service station, whatever it's called, across from the ABC was built, that it was going to create all sorts of havoc in rat running down Fuller Street and then up through Burlington Street and stuff like that. And it's never really eventuated. So it's difficult to know. However, I think on this site, you could see people comfortably coming up Nottage Terrace and turning down Dutton and cutting through that area. So that's my biggest concern with the spot rezoning, in that if you spot rezone the whole way along Main North Road, and each of those spot rezones have also happened to have purchased some properties that back on, if we don't have a reasonable level of protection and a bit more holistic plan, I see that as definitely as a danger to Medina.
Yes, no, totally agree, Councillor Williams.
So, yeah, I can't see any other option. I believe this supports the residents as well as we can, and we know that the decision-making process is
out of our hands from them.
Taken out of our hands anyway. So,
yeah, and I'll probably add to that comment. That final piece is that the councillors and the council administration are hamstrung, and the decision-making process, even at the council assessment panel level and at this level here with the rezoning of spot sites, is shunted further up the line. And so really it's about encouraging residents to voice their concerns and ensure that they are made loud and clear, and this submission that we're making, I think, duly reflects the height restrictions, the loss of those character homes. There's a lot of watering down of what was contributory sites. You either had to shift up to heritage, which probably 1 in 10,000 fit that category. Then you lost all the contributory items, became open game for demolition. So really, it's really encouraging the residents of these areas when these developments occur to voice their concerns, and for council to reflect that as well.
Yes, Councillor Bishop.
My only comment is that we need to come to a rational compromise, and I think that we're doing this. We can't deny that Scotty's Corner has to be or will be redeveloped.
Yep.
My greatest fear, and I go along with my councillor Stephen Furlan, my greatest fear is Dutton Terrace, and I have said that before. I don't know how, and with a local member sitting here, how we protect streets like Dutton Terrace. A developer only has to pick up 2 of those blocks, and they can do whatever they like. because they are half-acre blocks. He gets an acre right in the middle of Dutton Terrace, and anything could happen. So I don't know how we as a council can do any more to protect our streets of significance. And on the traffic flow,
They'd actually have to put in a formal code amendment.
I know
It's
that,
residential.
but
And it's got a heritage overlay too.
I know that, but
We just have to fuck it.
I know that, Elizabeth. There. The other point that I think it's not too late to go back to the government and ask them whether they will purchase some of that line. I know we've done it, but some of Medindi side and Main North Road to ease the traffic, because if the traffic is eased, they won't run through Dutton Terrace. As soon as they change the light configuration on the corner of Main North East Road, Nottage and Northcote and Stevens Terrace, when they gave an extra turning lane into Nottage Terrace, it changed the whole traffic dynamics through Medindi, which was interesting. So it's further than just what's happening in Medindi, it's further out. That has to be looked at.
We actually went with Walkerville and Prospect went together.
I know
And we
that.
met when the Liberal government, we met the minister, we met with, and we also met with the Dicty people in charge of that area, and the comment was, we don't have money to land bank or do and that's not a long-term strategy, we haven't looked at that yet, which is a bit short-sighted because there's a lot of traffic coming
And it's
into
got to get
the
more.
city. We also met with both the member for Adelaide, before she became the member for Adelaide, and Emily Burke and Andrew Michaels, and asked us for the same thing. I was only actually talking to the Mayor of Prospect a couple of weeks ago about how we needed to review this, and now of course he's not really standing, so we'll have to start again next.
Might I suggest
After the elections, I think
again.
something we have to pursue again, just to keep it up, even if nothing's actioned at that time. And just to bring everyone's memory so they can remember, we were talking about where the strips of all the little car yards come in for sale, they should start buying them so that we can then put a row of tree, another lane, row of trees, and then a pedestrian and cycling access, because the cyclists have to stop virtually when they hit Nottage Terrace, because it gets up until just before then it gets a bit suicidal. But it would allow them to have a nice cycle straight into the city, and the trees, if we put a row of trees between the road and the cyclists, it would then be a good buffer for noise for the Medindi and protect the Medindi homes. This was the Mayor of Prospect and we came up with this idea, and then from Stantec he provided us with some further information what's happened overseas. So we've gone and we've asked and we've suggested, or we just have to keep reminding them that it's a possibility which would protect a beautiful part of Adelaide, but at the same time, in 10 years' time, it's going to be chaos, that road, because with the housing being built in Buckland Park and other developments, it's just going to get worse coming into the city.
Medindi is hard enough to get out of in the morning as it is, and it's only going to get worse. And when I'm coming back from basically from Kensington, from the gym at 8 o'clock in the morning, it is bumper to bumper from certainly where I turn into Medindi, from Rundle Road right through to Northcote, Nottage Terrace.
Yep.
All along De Quebbel Terrace, it is bumper to bumper.
Anyway, we're going around. We're not
Sorry,
actually
but it's
referring
all
to
part
our
of that
agenda.
bigger. It's all
Yes, I
part of that
understand,
bigger picture, and it is going to also impact the Buckingham Arms site. We need to, because what happens up on Scotty's Corner, I suspect, is going to be a precursor as to what they're going to do with the Buckingham Arms site.
Yeah. Well, they already got their code amendment, Buckingham Arms.
But how high
That was
they go.
approved. Oh, it hasn't happened yet. We have haven't got sold the land yet. Councillor Williams.
Once again, I'll just draw on some past history. That site that I was talking about before on Burlington Street, obviously the traffic calming there that's just off North East Road only allows access from one way, so people that entered couldn't go back through down to Burlington. So other options we've had, and we've actually had quite a number over a period of time for traffic devices through Medindi, and we've had some shorter term solutions that seem to have helped over a period of time, but of course there's always the opportunity to revisit some of those, and it may well be there are methods that, should the development occur along Main North Road, there may be methods that might solve that problem better than some of the ones that were suggested previously. So that's a little bit of well, you can really only wait and see, but there's certainly options that council has if there becomes an issue with traffic. And I remember the advice, at one stage there were suggestions about chicanes through there, and I remember the advice that the traffic engineer gave us was that they're great for the first couple of times for the person that's running, it slows them down, but after that it becomes a competition to see how quick they can go through it.
It still is along Dutton.
So yeah, I think the actual calming device that you use is all important, and even similar to the options at Burlington.
And they still drive in.
You've got one
down
way.
Burlington, yes.
They do, but I guess it's some form of deterrent, even if it's only for 50%.
Right, if there are no further questions, no? Are we happy with the motion, folks? If so, would someone then move, please? Thank you, Councillor Furlong. May I have a seconder, please? Councillor Bishop, thank you. Do you wish to speak to the motion, Councillor Furlong?
Oh, just to reiterate, I think the height restrictions is consistent with what's around there, so we're not basing it on anything that's unfounded. I think we've commented on our disappointment about potential demolition of 2 character homes, and we've commented on the potential traffic issues there. So I think it covers sufficient for.
Thank you. Do you wish to speak?
I'm happy. Ish.
I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
We have no confidential items, and therefore the meeting is now closed at 7:19 p.m. I thank everyone for coming, and thank you, both of you.